The NFL draft will be here, and the Rashid Rice news is coming out right at the time when the Kansas City Chiefs are like, man, what are we going to do with our draft picks? So on this If and Then Thursday, guys, we got to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. We got to talk about their potential in this year's NFL draft. So as you guys know, as of right now, the Kansas City Chiefs sit last in the first 3 rounds of the draft and second to last in the 4th round of this year's draft. So they got all their 4th round picks, but they're at the very tail end of the rounds. Wide receivers have been issues for the Kansas City Chiefs the last 2 seasons, but just between the drops and the not being able to run routes and just the drops. Now, one of their top receivers is potentially going to no longer be on the team by the name of Rashid Rice. Does this mean Kansas City has to draft a receiver? I mean, it has to draft a receiver, right? They have to move up and get a receiver, right? So we got to ask the question: if the Kansas City Chiefs don't move up in the draft to draft a wide receiver this season, then what? The Kansas City Chiefs have kind of had a weird offseason. They released MVS earlier this off-season. A couple of days later, they signed Marquise Hollywood Brown. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, MVS, wasn't much for the stat-wise in the Kansas City Chiefs. He had a couple games where he caught some balls and some big-time catches, but he also had some big-time drops. He just wasn't fitting into the Kansas City Chiefs scheme very well. Adding the addition of Hollywood Brown was huge. Rashid Rice did tally up a lot of yards last season. Just under 1,000 yards last season, was the leading receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, but he seemed to disappear when they needed him the most. So losing him hurts, but also, does it really hurt? I don't know. So when we look at the draft is very top-heavy for receivers. You have 3 receivers up at the very top that are probably going within the top 10. But when you look at the bottom half of the receiving class in the first round and second round, there are some good projections down there. You have Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU, the second man to Malik Neighbors that we talked about yesterday, Ladd McCooney from Georgia, and my man Troy Franklin from Oregon. So when we look at this, if the Kansas City Chiefs do not move up and get a receiver, then what? I think the Chiefs will be just fine. The Chiefs do not need to move up and go get a receiver. The Chiefs don't need to trade a first and a second round pick to get in the top 10 to get a receiver. No, they don't. They'll be just fine. Troy Franklin from Oregon is going to be a dog. This man is getting lost in the wide receiver shuffle, but this man is going to be a dog. Watched film on him yesterday and watched his pro day, and I do not understand why he is not being talked about more. This man is being slept on. So the Kansas City Chiefs do not need to move up in the draft. The Kansas City Chiefs don't need to bank on a receiver coming, like go get Odell Beckham Jr. or whatever if they lose Rashid Rice. They don't need to worry about it. They'll draft a receiver in the late first round, late second round. They'll be just fine. They'll be just fine. Speaking of just fine, the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears' Montez Sweat has been very, very vocal the last few days. He's been out there talking his stuff, flexing his stuff, doing a little swag talk. He has been very, very vocal about the need a nice 1-2 punch at defensive end. He's been very, very vocal that he said that he will never lose to the Green Bay Packers again. This year, the Chicago Bears are going to walk over the Green Bay Packers, Montez Sweat says. So, guys, we got to ask the question. If and then, if the Bears do not beat the Green Bay Packers in 2024, then what? When we look at the Chicago Bears, guys, they did improve last season. They got a lot better from week 1 to week 17. They got a hell of a lot better. Play calling got better. Justin Fields got better. The defense got better. Hell, they were in the playoff hunt till week 16. Finished the season 7-10. But since then, they no longer have a quarterback. Their defense is getting better, but not worse either. The simple fact of the matter is the Green Bay Packers own the Chicago Bears. In the last 10 seasons, 20 games in fact, the Chicago Bears have only beaten the Green Bay Packers twice. One time in 2015 on November 26th, 17-13 win at Green Bay. And then in 2018, December 16th, they won at home 24-17. Of course, all these losses, most of those losses were to Aaron Rodgers at the helm, but Jordan Love took right over. This is the issue that I have with the Chicago Bears. They might be better, but the Green Bay Packers are even much better. Right now, the Chicago Bears have issues. Not only do they not have a quarterback, they have ego issues. Look at this. Montez Sweat out there pumping up the crowd, saying, we're never going to lose to Green Bay. We need a defensive end. We need this. Ego.